What's up, and welcome to the Mile High Hoops podcast. I am Jake Shapiro. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to my guy, Zach By. We had the handoff episode on Tuesday. If you want to hear from Zach and his thoughts on the Nugget season, go listen to that. Some more meta thoughts. Tonight, we're talking a little bit about the game to be played against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and specifically what I feel the Denver Nuggets are going to do this coming season. We'll start here. The Denver Nuggets right now kind of at like 50, 51 and a half wins, depending on where you look, projected by Las Vegas and the bookmakers there. And the Nuggets won 57 games last year, as did the Oklahoma City Thunder. And nikola jokic has gone over on those win totals every single season he's been an active NBA player. I've seen a lot of talk about the Nuggets maybe not getting to 50 wins this year, not being a team maybe even in the top 6 in the West and potentially having to go through the play-in. I think that's hogwash, honestly. I'm not particularly high on the Denver Nuggets offseason. I mean, you could go check out my piece on denversports.com about where my thoughts are on their offseason. But I do think that with a healthy Nikola Jokic and just a competent roster around him, the Nuggets are going to walk their way to 50 wins, even if Nikola only plays 65, 66, 67 games. So I'm pretty solid on where the Nuggets are going to be this regular season, even though I do think they're going to take the regular season a lot less seriously than they did last year, which you could argue was one of the best seasons in Nuggets history. They had 57 wins, tied their NBA franchise record. They beat the Lakers in a playoff series. Like, if it wasn't coming off of just winning a title, we'd be talking about last year as an awesome year. But we're not. And I think the Nuggets know now that the regular season doesn't matter all that much towards the perception of this team and how this team will be remembered. More so, it's how prepared and how well are they playing come playoff time. So this regular season, while it's definitely not about getting to 50 wins and maybe getting a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or even a 4 seed and getting home court advantage in the first round, I still think they're going to walk their way to 50 wins. And I think a lot of that's going to become, because when Jokic plays, the Nuggets are almost unbeatable. And Michael Porter Jr. is going to be very, very good for this team. And we'll see what Jamal is. I also would bring up the point of the regular season not mattering is, the Nuggets are 8-2 in their last 10 road playoff games. Something to keep in mind. So if the Nuggets don't end up with a top 4 seed and they're 5 or 6, I think they're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves still heading into the postseason. So as the regular season kicks off tonight, and as the Oklahoma City Thunder are projected by Vegas to be 57.5 and the Nuggets are 50.5, I actually like the Nuggets to go over more than the Oklahoma City Thunder. And a lot of people are saying, oh, the Thunder had the best offseason in the NBA. And I really like what they did. I like them picking up Hartenstein. I like them picking up Caruso, dumping Giddey. I think that's huge additions for their team. I like how deep they are. If they suffer an injury, they're going to be able to roll still. But they shot particularly well last year in a way that's kind of fluky. Every single player on their team had the best three-point shooting season of their career last year. I think that's going to come down a little bit. Hartenstein, their big offseason ad, is already out for a couple weeks to start the season. I think that's going to affect them a little bit, both now and then when he tries to reintegrate. I still like the Thunder to potentially be the number 1 team in the West. Don't get me wrong. And I think the Thunder are going to be really tough out in the playoffs because of the ball pressure they can put on teams. But I actually like the Nuggets to hit their over more than I like the Thunder to. And I would maybe, if I had to, put an under on the Thunder because the West is pretty solid. I'm not the guy that says everyone got better in the West. I don't think that's true. I don't think a lot of teams got better. But I do think the Sacramento Kings did. I do think the Phoenix Suns did. I think the Dallas Mavericks are a little bit better than they were last year. The Clippers are obviously worse. The Lakers are obviously worse. So there are wins to be had in the West. Portland Trailblazers, I'm looking at you. But there are also teams where wins are going to be harder to come by. San Antonio Spurs with second-year Victor Wembanyama and 2 veterans around him now, and Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. So I don't think it's going to be as easy. And you have to remember, the Denver Nuggets were a 1 seed in the West 2 years ago with 53, 54 wins. So the Thunder could be the 1 seed and go under at 55. I think that's quite possible. They've also been very healthy the last 2 years. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a lot of those guys just played Olympic basketball. What if they're not? So that's kind of where I'm at on these two teams as they match up tonight. And the thing I'm going to be looking at more than anything, even more than the final score and what happens with the Denver Nuggets ultimately in this game, how do the Nuggets break the press and the pressure of these great Oklahoma City defenders? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a lot of length. Lou Dort, one of the best defenders on Jamal Murray in the NBA. Alex Caruso, big offseason ad for them, has a lot of defensive capabilities. And then you've got guys like Jalen Williams who have a lot of athleticism. And then you've got Chet Holmgren, who's one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. I'm going to be looking at how Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon as a secondary ball handler, Russell Westbrook off the bench, breaks the Oklahoma City press and that pressure. Are they able to still get to the rim? Are they able to not turn over the ball? The Nuggets struggled with this a little bit against the Wolves, and that's with the fact that they still had KCP and, Reggie Jackson, who's a veteran guard. So now that their roster makeup's a little bit different, how does it look? And it looked really bad in the preseason against the Thunder. The Nuggets had 18 turnovers in that preseason game against the Thunder. And granted, Jamal and Russ didn't play in that game because Malone, I think, wanted to take a look at that guard depth and how it worked with Trey Alexander, who's the third-string point guard for the Nuggets. So that's what I'm going to be watching for tonight. How does Jamal Murray match up against Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? What do the Nuggets do in terms of cross-matching? Does Nikola Jokic guard Lou Dort? Will Nikola Jokic guard Chet Holmgren? And will Nikola Jokic take a lot of advantage of Chet Holmgren in the paint? Because the Thunder are sized down a little bit tonight with Hartenstein out against the Nuggets for opening night. That's what I'll be looking for, as well as the fact that the Nuggets went 1-3 against the Thunder last year, and both teams won 57 games, so those 4 games mattered a lot. Will the Nuggets take the Thunder a little bit more seriously now that we know them to be a proven commodity? And that'll be a storyline all regular season long of how the Nuggets take the regular season, which games they're going to get up for, which opponents they're really trying to match up with, which opponents maybe they're trying to save looks for the postseason. They didn't really show Aaron Gordon playing backup center his first year with KCP until basically the playoffs. They tried it in one game against Memphis, who they knew to be serious and they knew to be a big game, but they didn't really tip that hand, so to speak, until later on. So what else are we looking for early on in this Nugget season throughout the course of the regular season to be proven? They've got 3 guys, 3 young players, right? Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther. They need 2 of those 3 guys to become legitimate NBA role players if they are to have a shot at winning the NBA championship this year. If all 3 hit, the Nuggets might walk their way to a title. And I see the talent in all 3. Christian Brown, I think at this point in his career, might actually be a better defender than what KCP is, especially for the current landscape of the West. You have to remember, when the Nuggets acquired KCP, they were greatly struggling with perimeter defense in the Nikola Jokic era, right? The Golden State Warriors walked all over them. The Portland Trail Blazers won playoff series against them. It was all smaller guards. KCP comes to town. The Nuggets never lose to the Golden State Warriors with KCP on the active roster. But look around the West. It's really Ja Morant as the only small guard on a contender, right? Everyone else has these bigger wings, bigger guards, stronger guards. Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic. And Christian Brown's a little bit more built than KCP. So I think Christian Brown's better positioned actually for the current opponents that the Nuggets face. But Christian can't shoot the way KCP could. And that's going to matter a lot because the Nuggets shot the fewest threes in the NBA last year, and the math simply will not work on them shooting that few threes. They need to up their count from deep. And Christian's not that great of a shooter. So then you look elsewhere, right? You look to Julian Strawther. Can the 6'7" second-year player from Gonzaga contribute on a real level? I think the answer is yes. He's a little bit older. His last 2 years in college shot 37 and 41% from 3. Last year, his rookie season shot 29% from 3, but He was really good early on, and then he had a knee injury, and it kind of messed up his entire season. If he can contribute seriously and maybe even take over some minutes from Christian Braun, I think that's a good sign for the Nuggets. But of the three, the guy I'm highest on is Peyton Watson. And I think Peyton Watson, there's a world where Malone's actually going to be forced to find a way to put him in the starting lineup along the core four guys. I don't think Porter's going to play the two, but can Peyton Watson play the two? He's not really a two guard. He's more of a small forward, power forward. But that rim protection, that defensive ability, the rate statistics on Peyton Watson align very similarly to a young Kawhi Leonard. I'm not saying Peyton Watson's Kawhi Leonard. That's not what's happening here. But there's proof that Peyton is a really good and talented basketball player, along with his athleticism. And last year really was his rookie season because his first year, he only played a handful of games at the end of the year. So year two leap essentially is on the board for Peyton, as is Julian. And I like where Peyton's at. And you have to remember, he's a highly touted recruit going to UCLA, then didn't play at UCLA because they had a Final Four team and everyone decided to stay. So he didn't get much chance to play in college. So I like that Peyton Watson, what he represents and what he could be for the Denver Nuggets going into this year. That's why if you go to denversports.com, I've named Julian the X Factor, but I also talked up Peyton a little bit. And I think it's really important that Peyton, Christian, and Julian become serious threats from three. Peyton shot, a little erratic at times because their bench is going to be built on the fact of Russell Westbrook getting to the rim and then spaced from the outside with three-point shooters, including big man Dario Saric. I really like that addition in the offseason. I think he's a really valuable player for the regular season. 6'9", 6'10", can do a lot of different things on the court. Doesn't really defend much, doesn't rebound much, but can you get those rebounds maybe from Michael Porter Jr. if he's stagnating with the bench? Can you get that defensive ability from Peyton Watson, who is one of the best rim protecting forwards in the league last year? I think the answer is probably yes. So it's just about finding the right lineup combinations, which is something I'll be looking for throughout the course of the regular season and how this bench plays out. And the guy that does not get talked about enough is Vlatko Čančar, who I think legitimately the Nuggets at least go one more round in the playoffs if Vlatko's healthy last year. He's a versatile connecting forward who does a lot of different things. And the stuff that we saw from Holiday in the playoff series, I think we would have seen from Čančar, but even better. I really like him as a player. How does he look coming off the knee injury is the question. And can he fill the multiple versatile roles that he's filled in the past? That'll be something to watch for. What is Zeke Naji? I have no idea. I've been high, I've been low. I've been somewhere in between on him before. He's on the outside looking in, certainly. And the Nuggets don't have a lot of guard depth. I mean, Jalen Pickett's on their roster. You cannot trust him. Trey Alexander, the third-string point guard. I like him as a player coming out of Creighton. But are you going to trust a rookie seriously? No. And he's not going to be on the playoff roster because he's a two-way player. So that kind of sums up the Nuggets roster is they've got a lot more question marks than they've had in the last couple of years. We knew the starting five the last 2 years. This year, we're a little bit more questioned about it, right? We knew the key figures on the bench the last couple of years. This year, it's a candidacy for who could be the most important person off the bench. And I think a lot of people think that's going to be Russell Westbrook, right? Former MVP, picked up for the Denver Nuggets. I'm not very high on the move. I don't think he generates enough rim pressure anymore. I don't think that he's a great defender. He's scrappy, sure, a little bit smaller. But if he's going to play alongside Jamal, the Nuggets are going to be pretty small out there. If he's going to play off the bench, you better be hitting your threes on the outside to surround Russ. And I worry about how he molds in this locker room. But I will say, for a guy who's played with Paul George multiple times, James Harden multiple times, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, they haven't been able to get enough out of Russell Westbrook. Is the person to get enough out of Russell Westbrook actually Nikola Jokic? If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be Jokic, right? And what will Jokic look like this year? Will he be an MVP? Fourth MVP? That'd be crazy, right? I don't think he's going to play that many games. I think he's going to play like 65 games. I think he'll qualify. And if the Nuggets win 53, 54 games, he'll be in the conversation. But I have a hard time believing that Luka Doncic, this isn't his year. I think the narratives are for Luka. And that's okay. We all are going to be happy with Jokic if he gets the Nuggets deep in the playoffs again. And that's probably what's going to happen. But the biggest question is Jamal Murray. What does Jamal Murray look like? And I don't think we're going to have the answer to that question until December or January, when the Nuggets have really turned it on. He's a historically slow starter, and tonight's matchup is not a great one for him. So don't come to me tonight or tomorrow or on next Tuesday's pod talking about how Jamal Murray hasn't lived up to his contract. We're going to need to see it play out a little bit more. It's a long contract. I don't think that tonight he's going to be that great, and I think the Nuggets can still win. If he's awesome tonight, it's good news for the Nuggets. All right, speaking of news with the Nuggets, check out all the latest and greatest news-wise with the Denver Nuggets for analysis and everything else on denversports.com. That is where you can read my post-game recap of the Nuggets game tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Basketball is back at Ball Arena. I am so excited, and Mile High Hoops is back every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm Jake Shapiro. Thank you for tuning in.